By Friday, he had $12 million. By Sunday, I had his confession. By Tuesday, his wife was curled up on a folding cot in my cold garage, begging me not to turn off the light. He didn't know I was the trust protector. He didn't know about the care covenant rider. My name is Beatrice Langford. I am 61 years old, and I am standing in a sterile Denver law office that smells of carpet cleaner and old paper. The air conditioning is humming, and it is entirely too cold. Across the polished expanse of a mahogany conference table, my son, Colton, is sneering. He is 38, and he is looking at a document titled Elder Relocation Plan, as if it was something he'd scraped off his shoe. "It's a transition, Mum," he says, his voice bored. He waves his phone dismissively. "Just a formality." Marjorie Dale, my attorney, sits to my left. Her face is a perfect mask of professional neutrality. She slides a single sheet of paper across the table. It moves with a faint, dry whisper until it stops directly in front of Colton. He doesn't look at it. He doesn't have to. His thumbs are already moving, tapping furiously against the glass of his phone. A small, smug smile plays on his lips. He's texting his wife, Savannah Pierce Langford, who is sitting right beside him. Her leg is pressed against his, a united front of youthful, polished aggression. I look down at my own hands, clasped in my lap. Marjorie had poured me a cup of tea when I arrived. It sits on a delicate china saucer, and I notice the cup is rattling. A faint, persistent tremor that sends tiny ripples across the dark surface of the tea. I deliberately unclasp my hands and place my right palm flat on the saucer, stilling the vibration with a steady, practiced pressure. I will not shake. I will not give them the satisfaction. Control. That is the only thing that matters right now. Colton finally pockets his phone, leaning back in his leather chair until it groans. "It's done," he announces to the room. He means the money. The $12 million. It isn't an inheritance from his father. It's the payout from a key man insurance policy, a corporate buy-sell trigger that Colton maneuvered into place the moment my husband, his father, was gone. Completely liquid, he boasts, tapping his fingers on the gleaming wood. And, more importantly, unrestricted. It's all mine. He leans forward, aiming his next words directly at me. "You have 7 days to vacate the house." The humming of the air conditioner seems to rush into the sudden silence. 7 days. Not to grieve. Not to sort through 30 years of a life lived in that Cherry Creek home. 7 days to get out. "I've already scheduled the contractors," he continues, glancing at his designer watch. "Demo starts next Monday. We're taking it down to the studs, a complete modernization." Beside him, Savannah leans forward. She reaches into her expensive leather handbag and pulls out a glossy, tri-fold brochure. She doesn't hand it to me. She drops it onto my lap, the coated paper cold against my skirt. The cover shows a group of silver-haired seniors playing shuffleboard under a sky so blue it looks artificial. "Sunrise Meadows," she says, her voice bright and brittle. "It's a premium senior community. We've already put down the deposit for you. You'll be much more comfortable there." A premium senior community, a thinly veiled exile, gift-wrapped in marketing slogans. I feel Marjorie's gaze on my face. I turn my head, just slightly. Our eyes meet. I see the question in her look, the readiness. I give her the smallest, most imperceptible nod, a micro movement of my chin. Her eyelids flicker once, It is all the confirmation we need. The silent pact is sealed. The small digital recorder in her briefcase is active and capturing every word. I turn back to my son. I do not look at the brochure still sitting in my lap. I focus instead on the single sheet of paper he has yet to touch. I will need that instruction in writing, I say. My voice is quiet, measured. It doesn't shake. It doesn't betray the ice that is forming in my veins. Colton throws his head back and laughs. It is a short, barking sound that holds no humor. In writing, seriously? What is this? A negotiation? You're not a compliance officer anymore. Mom. He finds my adherence to rules, to procedure, amusing. Fine. He scoffs, grabbing the pen from the desk holder. Whatever. You want paperwork? You'll get paperwork. He snatches the sheet Marjorie had offered, scrawls his signature across the bottom line without reading a single word, and shoves it back across the table. The paper skates to a stop right next to my teacup. He has just handed me Exhibit A. He thinks he has finalized my eviction. I pick up the document. I take a moment to look at his signature, the angry, looping C that presses so hard it nearly tears the paper. I fold it precisely in half, then in half again. I slide it into my purse and fasten the clasp. I lift my eyes to meet his. I let him see the stillness in my face. Thank you for putting that in ink. My husband, Graham Langford, has been dead for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. It feels like a lifetime and no time at all. The scent of his cologne, a sharp citrus and cedar, still lingers in the upstairs closet, but the silence in the house is absolute. Graham was the co-founder of Ridge and Rail Developments, a man who built things, a man who controlled things. His presence was a low hum of authority that filled every room. Now, there is just the hum of the refrigerator. Colton, my son, does not understand the nature of the money he is clutching. He talks about the $12 million as if Graham left it for him under a Christmas tree. It is not an inheritance. It is not a gift from a loving father. It is the result of a cold, corporate mechanism. It is the payout from a key man insurance policy combined with a forced buyout clause that Colton, with Savannah's whispering guidance, maneuvered into place the moment the death certificate was signed. He used his father's death as a liquidity event. What Colton has forgotten, or perhaps never bothered to learn, is what I did for a living. For 2 decades. I was a senior compliance officer. My specialty was auditing vendor fraud. I did not build skyscrapers like Graham. I did not host fundraisers like Savannah. I sat in quiet rooms and I read the fine print. I hunted for loopholes. I lived in a world of riders, carve-outs, clawbacks, and bad boy clauses. I know precisely how a contractual obligation is built, and I know exactly how it is breached. Graham's affection, in retrospect, was always grand but managerial. He provided a beautiful life, but he managed his family the way he managed his portfolio. He scheduled dinners. He approved vacations. He reviewed report cards with an eye for performance. Colton learned from this. He learned all about the acquisition of power, but he missed the lectures on patience and stewardship. He only wants to own. He does not want to care for. And then, 5 years ago, Savannah arrived. She came into our lives with a blindingly white smile, a wardrobe that cost more than my first car, and a background in public relations. She was polished to a high sheen, a perfect accessory for a rising executive. I quickly learned she had a talent for expensive timing, a way of appearing just as financial decisions were being made. her hand resting lightly on Colton's arm. Colton believes he just kicked me out of my home. He is wrong. He kicked me out of his asset. That is the critical distinction. The deed to the estate house in Cherry Creek does not sit in my personal name. Graham, ever the fortress builder, placed it, along with most of his significant holdings, inside the Langford Family LLC. It is a legal separation, a firewall, and Colton, as the new managing heir, believes he has the keys to that entire fortress. He thinks the signature he just gave me is a key turning a lock. He does not remember the rider. I remember drafting it. It was years ago, after our neighbours, the Hendersons, had a family tragedy. Their son moved his mother, Martha, into a facility so fast her mail was still being delivered to the house. I saw her one last time, in the passenger seat of her son's car, her face pressed against the glass, looking back at her own garden. That image stayed with me. I went to Graham, and for once, I did not negotiate. I drafted the care covenant rider myself. It was a simple, ironclad amendment to the LLC's operating agreement. He signed it to appease me. He saw it as a sentimental, unnecessary piece of paper, a concession to my softer, anxious nature. But the language is not soft. It is surgical. It explicitly ties the continued control and benefit of all LLC assets to the designated heir's demonstrable duty of care toward the surviving spouse. The requirement is not ambiguous. It specifies financial, physical, and emotional support for a period of 12 months following the transfer of control. And beneath that clause, I placed a second, quieter designation, a role I never wanted but insisted upon trust protector, a position with the independent power to pause, review, and redirect any and all distributions upon evidence of gross negligence or, more specifically, abandonment. The name designated as Protector Beatrice Langford, Colton, in his arrogance, just handed me a signed, dated confession of his intent to abandon. He just started the 12-month clock and breached the covenant on day one. The moment I returned to the Cherry Creek house, his house, according to the signature in my purse, I did not go to the master bedroom to pack. I went to the study. Graham had kept a large, fireproof safe hidden behind a false panel of bookshelves. I keyed in the code, a date only I would remember, and retrieved the LLC governance binder. It was heavy, bound in dark blue leather. Inside, the documents were pristine, organized with the colored tabs I had insisted upon years ago. Yellow for the operating agreement, red for the keyman amendments, and green, a bright, venomous green, for the care covenant rider. I sat at the desk, the one Colton planned to send to a consignment shop, and opened the binder. I uncapped a yellow highlighter. The meeting in Marjorie's office was the accusation. This was the preparation for the trial. My hands were perfectly steady now. The tremor was gone, replaced by a cold, familiar focus. I found the definitions section in the rider. My highlighter moved across the page, a slow, deliberate line. Abandonment, defined as any action taken by the heir to remove the surviving spouse from the primary residence without mutual written consent or a court order. Coercive eviction, defined as the use of intimidation, manufactured deadlines, or the withholding of funds to force a relocation. Public disparagement of the surviving spouse, defined as any communication, digital or otherwise, that serves to undermine the standing or mental capacity of the surviving spouse. Colton had, in a single 30-minute meeting, checked all 3 boxes. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I knew by heart. It was not Marjorie's. Pike. A crisp voice answered on the first ring. Dr. Pike, it's Beatrice Langford, I said. It's happening. There was a brief pause. Dr. Rowan Pike was not a typical elder law specialist. He was a forensic strategist, a man Marjorie brought in when covenants needed enforcing. He understood the sharp end of fiduciary duty. Beatrice, he said, his voice devoid of sympathy, which I appreciated. Marjorie advised me it was imminent. Did you get the written notice? Signed and dated by Colton himself, 10 minutes ago, I replied. Good. Then the clock has started. We move to the 3-step activation. Pike said. Documentation, notification, and springing authority? We are now in step 1. This was my language. This was the chessboard. Requirement 1, he continued, is documentation. The signed notice is the foundation. We now need the supporting evidence. Any texts, any emails, any voicemails from him or his wife that mock your needs or minimize his care obligations. He must be given the chance to perform his duty, and he must refuse. He already has, I said, thinking of the Sunrise Meadows brochure. Requirement 2 is the safe harbor address, your legal domicile. You cannot be without one when you claim abandonment. The Aurora property. My bungalow, I confirmed. It's small. It has a detached garage. It is legally and solely mine, outside the LLC. It is perfect, Pike said. It is the square the Queen retreats to before the checkmate. Requirement 3 is notification. Marjorie will prepare the notice of potential covenant breach. We will send it to the corporate insurer and the LLC's primary bank. We are not triggering the clause yet. We are merely placing a provisional hold, a friction hold. We are making them aware that the $12 million may have been disbursed under false pretenses. Pike took a breath. A warning. Beatrice, timing is everything. This is a very delicate phase. If one wrong word leaks before the hold is in place, Colton will liquidate every asset he can touch. He will drain the accounts, move the money offshore, and we will spend 3 years chasing ghosts. He cannot know we are looking. I looked at the green tab in the binder. I thought of my son's laugh. He won't, I said. He thinks I'm a confused old woman packing boxes. Then you must be that confused old woman, Pike said. For the next 48 hours, be obliging, be sad, be overwhelmed. Let him dig his own grave with his words. Let him send the texts. Let him schedule the dumpsters. I understand, I said. We activate on your signal, Pike concluded. The moment you are physically displaced, we file, not before. We disconnected. I sat in the quiet study, the smell of Graham's leather chairs around me. 48 hours. I would play the part of the grieving widow. I would let him move his pieces, unaware that I was already 3 moves ahead. I am playing the part of the confused, obliging mother. It is a role I find surprisingly easy to inhabit. It requires little more than smiling, nodding, and keeping my voice soft, a gentle tremor of uncertainty in my tone. The next morning, Colton arrives, not alone. He brings a woman dressed entirely in black, with severe glasses and a measuring tape draped around her neck like a scarf. She is the designer, the one tasked with the modernization. They sweep through the living room, their voices sharp and echoing on the marble floors. This entire wall has to go, the designer says, rapping her knuckles on the built-in walnut bookshelves Graham and I had commissioned. It's heavy. It's dark. Total gut. Colton agrees, his voice filled with a new, proprietary arrogance. I want it open. Clean lines. We're ripping out Mother's entire era. Mother's era. As if my 30 years of life in this house were a trend in cabinetry that had gone out of style. I stand in the doorway, holding a silver tray. Colton, would you and your guest like some coffee? I ask. I baked those oatmeal cookies you always liked. He waves me away, annoyed by the interruption, by my very presence. We're busy, Mom. Just stay out of the way. Please. We're measuring. While they discuss the structural integrity of the fireplace, debating its removal, Savannah finds me in the dining room. She is not measuring. She is cataloguing. She holds her phone up, moving in a slow circle, taking high-resolution photographs of my wedding china, the heirloom crystal, the silver service. This set is actually quite valuable, she muses, tapping on her screen, zooming in on a hallmark. Good resale inspo. Inspiration? I ask, my voice pitched with the perfect note of gentle confusion. For my followers, she says, not looking at me. People love a good before shot. The transformation is what gets the engagement. Of course, dear, I say. Would you like a cookie? She finally looks at me, a flicker of what I can only describe as pity in her eyes. Sure, thank you. As I offer her the plate, I smile. Neither she nor Colton noticed me enter the living room an hour ago, before they arrived. They didn't see me pause by the walnut bookshelves, pretending to dust a heavy bookend. They didn't see the tiny, dark lens I'd airplaned into place. A small nanny cam with a direct, encrypted feed to a cloud server Marjorie had established. It is now capturing a perfect, wide-angle shot of the room, recording every word about ripping out my era, every dismissive gesture. Later. They insist on taking me to brunch. It is part of the performance, the duty of care theatre. We sit at a noisy outdoor cafe, the sun bright in our eyes. Colton is scrolling through contractor estimates on his laptop, his brow furrowed. The deposits are killing me, he mutters, loud enough for me to hear. They all want 20% up front. Cash flow is tight until the last tranche comes through. Savannah, energized by her successful inspo shoot, sips her mimosa. It's fine, darling. We just use the house account. That's what it's for. Right. Maintaining the property. The house account. I know exactly which account she means. The restricted covenant account. It is an LLC operating account. Its funds explicitly tied to the maintenance and upkeep of the property, not its demolition. Its use is governed by the green-tabbed rider. Using it for deposits on a full gut job is a flagrant, beautiful violation. It is a compliance landmine, and Savannah is dancing right on top of it in her $300 sandals. It will all be worth it, she says, squeezing his arm. Once we flip this, the Langford Legacy Lounge is going to be the #1 brand activation in Denver. My PR list is already dying to get in. A brand activation, not a home. A lounge. I keep my voice warm. I smile and nod. That sounds lovely. Dear? What paint colours are you thinking of? I always found the afternoon light in the West Wing to be a little tricky. Inside, I am not thinking about paint. I am itemizing. Breach #2, misuse of restricted funds. Breach #3, intent to convert a residential asset to a commercial one. A direct violation of the LLC's stated purpose. As we sit there, Colton's phone, resting on the table beside his plate, lights up. A text message. I don't need to read it. A small, imperceptible icon appears on my own phone's locked screen in my purse. Marjorie's auto-forwarding system, which Colton had agreed to install on his devices as part of the estate transition, has just captured its screenshot. I know exactly what it says. Sunrise Meadows has a bed for her Monday, complete with a little sunshine emoji. That afternoon, my neighbor from across the street, Anya Petrov, stops by while I'm pretending to water the azaleas. She leans over the fence, her face a mask of genuine worry. Honey, she whispers, though no one is around. I saw the email, the HOA alert. They're bringing 2 industrial dumpsters tomorrow morning. 6 tomorrow. He's moving the timeline up. He wants me out faster. Thank you, Anya, I say, patting her hand, allowing mine to tremble just a little. It's all happening so fast. I don't know what to do. It's a disgrace, she hisses. A sin. I go inside. I don't call Colton to protest. I don't call Marjorie to panic. I call a discreet, bonded moving company I have had on standby for a week. I schedule them for tonight. 10 p.m. They have their instructions. They will take only what matters: my personal files, Graham's journals, the photographs, the silver, and the art in the hallway. I spend the last hour in my closet. I leave behind the expensive coats, the designer suits, the rows of shoes. I pack my oldest, most comfortable clothes in a single suitcase. I leave the wardrobes full, a perfect decoy. It will be the symbolic bait for their story, the proof they will offer that I was confused, that I was incapable, that I left willingly, in a daze, abandoning a lifetime of possessions. Let them build their narrative. I am busy building my case. The house is silent. My discreet movers finished their work an hour ago, vanishing into the night with the pieces of my life that truly mattered. The remaining rooms are hollowed out, echoing with the ghosts of 30 years. I check my watch. It is Friday, exactly 9 p.m. across town. I picture Marjorie Dale in her quiet, illuminated office. She is hitting the send key. It is not a plea or a request. It is a digital torpedo, the notice of potential covenant breach. It is addressed to the Chief Compliance Officer at the Langford Family LLC's bank and the Head of Disbursements at the Keyman Insurer. The first move of the notification phase. We are no longer observing. We are acting. The wait is short. At 10:15 p.m., my phone buzzes with a secure message from Dr. Pike's encrypted service. It is not a conversation, just a status update. The bank's automated compliance system, triggered by Marjorie's notice, has flagged the pending contractor deposits, the ones Colton was using to rip out Mother's era. The system has cross-referenced the contingent on care obligations clause attached to the restricted account. A soft freeze is initiated. The money is still visible in his account, a tantalizing, unmovable figure. The trap is now baited. Saturday dawns cold and grey. The sun has not yet breached the horizon. I am sitting in a vinyl booth at a 24-hour diner miles from Cherry Creek, the air thick with the smell of stale coffee. Dr. Pike slides into the booth opposite me, placing a single folded document on the table. He is not a man for small talk. "This is the limited power," he says, his voice low and precise. "It doesn't grant you full control yet. It is a springing authority. It activates your role as trust protector the moment we file the objective proof of abandonment. It is the final piece of the mechanism." He slides a heavy, black pen across the table. I sign where he indicates. The ink is final. I drive to the Aurora bungalow, my new legal domicile. The quiet is a relief. As instructed, I open my phone and check Savannah's social media feed. It takes less than 30 seconds to find it. She has posted a new story. It is a short video, a selfie, panning across the grand, empty foyer of the Cherry Creek house. She is smiling, her designer sunglasses perched on her head. The geotag is prominent and proud, Langford Mansion. Her caption, New Beginnings. She has punctuated it with a small diamond emoji. It is arrogant. It is public. And most importantly, it is time-stamped. I save the file. Within a minute, it is uploaded to Pike's secure server. The next piece of the puzzle arrives in my own inbox that afternoon. Colton. He is clearly frustrated, likely having received alerts that his contractor deposits have not cleared. He thinks he can solve this by applying more force, by sounding official. He has sent me a formal email. He titles it a relocation directive. The tone is derisive, cold, and impatient. He accuses me of failing to cooperate with the agreed-upon transition. He reiterates, in stark black and white, the non-negotiable deadline I am to vacate the premises within 7 days, or he will have me removed. He has just, with his own fingers, typed a perfect textbook definition of coercive eviction under Rider Section 5A. I wait exactly 1 hour. Then, I follow the last step of Pike's script. I use my phone, but I do not text. I call him and let it go to his voicemail. I let my voice shake, just a little. I make myself sound old, frail, and defeated. Colton, darling, it's Mom. I record. The tremor practiced. I just received your email. I can't. Honey, I can't possibly do this in 7 days. It's too much. I'm all alone. Please. I pause, as if gathering my breath. I just need a little help. Couldn't I just stay in the guest room, just for 6 weeks? Just until I can get on my feet? Please. Darling. I send the voicemail. The response is almost instantaneous. He does not call me back. He texts. 4 words that detonate his entire $12 million future. Not my job. I forward the text to Pike. In his office, the final assembly begins. He compiles the full enforcement packet, my signed notice of eviction, the not my job text, Savannah's New Beginnings video, the bank statements showing the attempted misuse of restricted funds, the Sunrise Meadows brochure, Colton's derisive relocation directive email. The insurer acknowledges receipt within the hour. Their reply is not a promise, but a threat. They are formally initiating a morals and maintenance review of the entire key man payout. That night, I go back to the house one last time. The decoy wardrobes stand guard in the dark. The rooms are vast, empty canyons. I walk through the dining room, running my hand along the wall where the china cabinet used to be. The air is cold. I am no longer the confused widow. I am the trust protector. I turn toward the front door, my footsteps echoing in the absolute silence. I whisper to the empty, listening house. Your move. Sunday. The dumpsters Anya warned me about are already sitting on the curb. 2 massive, hungry green mouths. I am in the kitchen, packing the last of the pantry food into a donation box. When the doorbell rings, I open it. It is Colton. He is not alone. He has brought a locksmith, a large man with a metal toolbox, and a thin, nervous-looking man in a cheap suit, a process server. Colton doesn't meet my eyes. He is all brisk, angry energy. He shoves a cardboard box into my hands. It is a courtesy box of large, black trash bags. "You've had your time. Mum?" he says, his voice flat. "The contractors are here. You need to be gone." "Colton, I just need a few more." "Documentation." A voice cuts in. It is Savannah, emerging from behind him. She has her phone raised, the red record light glowing. She is filming me. "We're just documenting that you're receiving the notice," she says, her voice smooth and syrupy for the camera's benefit. The process server steps forward and hands me an envelope. The locksmith brushes past me and heads for the front door lock, his tools rattling. "Just look a little confused." "Mom." Savannah coaches me in a stage whisper, smiling into her phone. "For the court optics, just in case you try to say we didn't give you time." My heart, which I thought was pure ice, begins to thud. This is the performance. This is the public disparagement Pike spoke of. "My medication," I say, my voice steady, turning away from her phone. "It is in the upstairs bathroom. I need 20 minutes to pack my prescriptions. That is all I am asking." I am looking directly at Colton when I say it. He looks away, gesturing impatiently at the locksmith to hurry up. Savannah, however, does not hide her annoyance. She sighs, a loud, theatrical huff of breath, and rolls her eyes toward the ceiling. It is a micro-gesture, a small, intimate act of utter contempt. She thinks she is off camera, but the nanny cam I left on the living room bookshelf has a perfect, clear view of her face. She has just created another exhibit. "Fine," Colton snaps. 20 minutes. Then the locks are changed, whether you are out or not." I walk upstairs, past a contractor who is already prying trim from the wall with a crowbar. I do not run. I move with deliberate calm. I retrieve my small bag of medications. When I come back down, the house is chaos. Men are carrying tools, shouting. I see the contractor by the fireplace. He is clearing the mantelpiece, sweeping everything vases, old awards, picture frames into a large plastic bin. I see him pick up our wedding photo, Graham and me, 31 years ago. He looks at it for a second, shrugs, and tosses it into the bin on top of a pile of plaster. I walk over to him. "Excuse me?" He stops. I reach into the bin, my hand brushing against broken glass, and I retrieve the frame. The glass is cracked, but the image is intact. I hold it. This, I am keeping. This, he cannot have. I am retrieving my own narrative from his trash heap. I walk toward the front door. The locksmith is finishing his work, the new, bright brass deadbolt gleaming. I step out onto the porch, the wedding photo clutched in my hand. I am still on the top step when the locksmith closes the door behind me. I hear the sound, sharp and final. The click of the new bolt sliding into place. I am locked out. I stand there, just for a moment. I know what this looks like. An old woman, evicted, holding a single picture. Across the street, I see Anya Petrov. She is not watering her azaleas this time. She is standing on her porch, her own phone raised, recording the entire scene, documenting the objective abandonment. I walk to my car. I do not look back. The drive to the Aurora bungalow is quiet. The house is small, silent, and smells faintly of dust and soap. It is mine. I go to the detached garage. The heavy wooden door groans as I lift it, the hinges stiff from disuse. The air inside is cold. I walk to the corner where I stored them. 2 folding cots, a stack of clean, wool blankets. I open the first cot, the metal leg snapping into place with a hollow clang. I unfold one of the blankets and lay it neatly over the thin mattress. Then I do the same with the second one. I prepare them for later. I take my phone from my purse. I open the secure app and send a single message to Marjorie Dale. It contains 2 words. Abandonment objective. My phone buzzes almost instantly. It is the confirmation. Marjorie is green-lighting the full covenant enforcement packet. It is now speeding digitally to the insurer, to the bank's fraud department, and to every member of the LLC board. The second phase, notification, is complete. I walk from the cold garage into the small bungalow's kitchen. The sun is setting, casting long shadows on the linoleum floor. I fill a kettle with water and set it on the stove. I wait for the click of the gas igniter. I wait for the water to boil. I stare at the blank, beige wall of the kitchen, and I listen to the rising, whistling sound of the inevitable. Monday morning. I am at the small table in my Aurora bungalow. The tea in my cup is hot, and the air is still. The first electronic tremors of the earthquake we triggered on Friday begin to register. Marjorie forwards me the first official notice. The insurer, moving faster than we had anticipated, has formally suspended the final $3.2 million tranche of the Keyman payout. The disbursement is frozen, pending a full morals and maintenance review. Simultaneously, the bank, having received the full packet, converts the transactional friction hold into a hard freeze. The $12 million, or what remains of it after Colton's initial spending spree, is now locked. He can see the balance, a tantalizing string of numbers on his screen, but he cannot access a single cent. The first to scream are the contractors. The deposits for the demolition, the ones he authorized on Friday, are now marked rejected account under security review. The head contractor, the man who tossed my wedding photograph into the trash, leaves a voicemail for Colton that is so loud and profane. Marjorie's transcription software flags it in red. He is threatening a mechanic's lien on the Cherry Creek property by noon if he does not receive a wire transfer. Across town, Savannah is attempting to self-medicate with retail. She is in a high-end boutique, her arms full of clothes. When she presents her LLC credit card, the sales clerk runs it, frowns, and runs it again. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the clerk says. "This card has been declined." Savannah, her face flushing, offers a different one. A debit card, also tied to the LLC. "Declined." "That's impossible," Savannah snaps, her voice high and brittle. "There must be a bank glitch. Run it again." She has no idea. She has been cut off. Colton, meanwhile, is focused on the bigger prize. He is attempting to finalize the sale of the mansion, the Langford Legacy Lounge deal. He receives a call not from the buyer, but from the title company. The closing is stalled, indefinitely. The title agent informs him, in cold legal terms, that the Langford Family LLC cannot convey clear title to the property as long as a covenant rider breach is actively under review by the insurer and the bank. The house, his primary asset, is unsellable. This is when he finally calls Marjorie. I am not privy to the call, but Marjorie details it for me later. He does not yell. He rages. He screams. He threatens her with disbarment, with lawsuits, with financial ruin. Marjorie, in the calm, measured tone that I have come to admire, waits for him to exhaust himself. She then informs him that, as per the rider's definitions of hostile utterance, She is logging this call as further evidence. She cites paragraph 7, subsection C, regarding the suspension of member rights. She politely invites him to put any and all future grievances in writing and to have his legal counsel contact her. Then she disconnects. The pressure is now coming from all sides. The contractors are at the mansion gates. The designer is demanding her upfront fee. The vendors Savannah contacted for her brand activation are sending invoices. Trapped. Colton does the one thing he was trying to avoid. He is forced to liquidate his own money. He begins selling personal investment positions. Stocks Graham had gifted him years ago. He is selling them at a significant loss to cover the penalties and stop the liens. The blood is in the water. My phone buzzes. A text message. It is Savannah. You did this. You ruined us. I hope you're proud of yourself, hiding in that disgusting little house. It is the final, perfect piece of evidence. The public disparagement clause, now fulfilled. I take a screenshot and forward it to Pike's server. The collapse accelerates. The Cherry Creek Homeowners Association, spurred by Anya Petrov's daily complaints, emails a formal violation notice, the unauthorized demolition, the abandoned industrial dumpsters, and the non-compliance with association bylaws are resulting in penalties, compounding daily. Then, the public humiliation. A local reporter, one who specializes in financial investigations, not society parties, calls Savannah's phone. He leaves a voicemail asking for comment on the Langford Influencer Lounge fiasco and allegations that the project's funding was tied to the coercive eviction of a surviving spouse. Savannah, the woman who lived for the public eye, finally goes dark. Her social media accounts, once a constant stream of inspo and new beginnings, are suddenly set to private. Her affiliates, sensing the stench of a scandal, quietly begin to unfollow. That night, the storm that had been threatening all day finally breaks. Rain lashes against the small windows of my bungalow. The lights at the mansion are out. The utility bill, tied to the frozen LLC account, was not paid. A car door slams. I look through the blinds. It is not an expensive sedan. It is a rideshare, its logo glowing in the wet darkness. A figure stumbles out of the back seat, pulling a small suitcase. The car speeds away. She stands on the curb, soaked by the rain, her expensive coat clinging to her. Her mascara is running in 2 black rivers down her face. It is Savannah. She looks at the small bungalow, then at the dark, cold garage. She takes a breath, shudders, and begins the long walk up my driveway. The banging starts at precisely 1:12. It is not a polite knock. It is the flat, frantic pounding of a fist against the thin wood of my bungalow's front door. The sound is shockingly loud in the small, quiet house. I get out of bed. I do not turn on a light. I go to the living room window and look through the blinds. On my small, unlit porch, a figure is illuminated by the weak glow of the street lamp at the curb. It is Savannah. She is soaked to the bone, her hair plastered to her face, the rain sluicing off her expensive coat. I do not open the front door. I go to my kitchen, put on my own raincoat, and step out the side door into the storm. The wind drives the cold rain hard against my face. I walk the few feet across the wet grass to the detached garage. I grab the handle of the heavy main door and heave it upward. The old metal tracks groan, a loud, scraping shriek in the dead of night. The single bare bulb inside flickers on, illuminating the cold, concrete space. Savannah turns. her body flinching at the sudden sound and light. She is standing on the driveway, which is slick and black with rain. She stares at me, her face a ruin of streaked mascara. She sees the open, empty garage. She sees me, standing just inside, dry and waiting. She runs, stumbling, into the shelter of the garage, dripping a puddle onto the floor. B. Thank God. She gasps, her teeth chattering. My phone died. I just need a charger. Please. Can I come inside, just to charge my phone? There are no outlets in here, I say. My voice is flat, echoing slightly in the empty space. Her face crumples. Please. She tries again, her voice breaking. Just the sofa. Then can I just sit on your sofa for 5 minutes? I just need 5 minutes to think. There is no sofa, I say. I gesture to the 2 folding cots I had prepared, their metal legs stark on the concrete. There is that. She follows my hand. She stares at the flimsy cot, at the thin, folded wool blanket. This, compared to the silk sheets and the mansion she was planning, is the end of the line. She makes a small, choking sound and collapses onto the cot. The sobs are not for me. They are for herself. They are hiccuped, ugly, and raw. He made me do it, she whispers, the words tumbling out between gasps. She wipes her running nose on the sleeve of her designer coat. The lockout. It was Colton. He said we had to, for optics. He said it would make you look weak. She looks up at me, her eyes desperate for some kind of absolution. He said you were dead weight. That's what he called you. Dead weight. The words hang in the cold, damp air. Dead weight. She is fumbling in her oversized, soaked leather purse, her hands shaking so violently she can barely work the clasp. He made me film you. He told me what to say. He coached me. She pulls out her phone. It is not dead. The screen flares to life, bright and accusing in the dim garage. It was just a lie to get into my house. Her fingers, shaking, tap the screen. She finds what she is looking for, an audio file. Listen, she begs. Listen. She presses play. I hear my son's voice, not the voice of the boy I raised, but the cold, clinical voice of a stranger. Just tell her to look confused. Sov. The recording says, we need her to look incompetent for the deposition. She swipes, plays another. Make sure you get her face when the lock clicks. That's the money shot. I look at the phone's screen. The files are time-stamped. 2 full days before the eviction. 2 days before they stood in Marjorie's office. It is the premeditation. It is the proof of intent. I look at her. This broken, shivering woman on my cot. I ask her one simple question, my voice quiet. Did you spend the restricted funds? She flinches as if I have struck her. She hesitates, her gaze dropping to the concrete floor. She gives a tiny, jerky nod. He said it was fine, she whispers. He said it was just a house account, for maintenance. For maintenance, I repeat. Her purse, still open in her lap, tips over. A cascade of damp paper spills out onto the floor. Receipts, crumpled and wet. But the ink is clear. A deposit for the Langford Legacy Lounge event planner. A charge from a high-end spa, dated the day after the lockout. A bill for $2,000 from the designer in black. I told him we should go fast, she confesses, the words rushing out now. I told him to tear it all down, to tear it down fast so you couldn't come back. She has delivered everything: intent, the misuse of funds, the premeditation audio. I pull my own phone from my raincoat pocket. I stand in the garage doorway, the cold rain misting my face. I send a single, secure text to Marjorie. We have intent, plus restricted fund spend, plus premeditation audio. Savannah does not notice. She has curled into a fetal position on the cot, pulling the old, musty wool quilt over her head, her body shaking with cold and self-pity. The single, bare bulb in the garage ceiling flickers, casting jumping shadows on the walls. I stand there for a long moment, watching the shape under the blanket. I do not bring her into my house. I do not offer her a hot cup of tea. I turn and walk back into the storm. I watch the rain bead on the shingled roof of the garage, the water running in small, clean rivers down the driveway. I whisper to the dark, wet dawn that is still an hour away. We finish at dawn. The meeting is called for 9 a. It is not held in a small law office. It is an emergency meeting, convened in the main compliance boardroom of the LLC's primary bank. The room is a canyon of glass and steel, dominated by a reflective black table that seems to stretch for a mile. The air is cold, filtered, and silent. I sit at that table, flanked by Marjorie and Dr. Pike. Across the vast expanse of polished granite sits my son. Colton is alone, his expensive suit rumpled, his face a dark mask of resentment. He is scowling, his eyes fixed on the empty chair beside him. We are not the only ones present. Lining the table are the other members of the LLC board, men who had been Graham's partners for decades. At the head of the table sit the insurer's lead counsel and the bank's chief compliance officer. They are not here to mediate. They are here to render judgment. Marjorie does not begin with an argument. She places a small, black digital recorder in the center of the table. The click it makes is the only sound in the room. "Before we review the breach notifications," she says, her voice resonating clearly in the stillness, "I believe this audio provides necessary context." She presses play. My son's voice, cold and clinical, fills the boardroom. Just tell her to look confused. Sav. We need her to look incompetent for the deposition. I watch the board members. One, an older man named Arthur, flinches. Marjorie lets the silence sit for a beat before playing the next file. "Make sure you get her face when the lock clicks. That's the money shot." There is a collective, sharp intake of breath. Arthur closes his eyes. Colton's face turns a dark, blotchy red. He opens his mouth to speak, but the bank's counsel, a precise woman in a grey suit, holds up a single hand. "We will proceed," she says, her voice cutting through the tension. She addresses the board, not Colton. "We have reviewed the governing documents provided by Ms. Dale, pursuant to the Langford Family LLC agreement, specifically Rider Section 7, subsection C, a finding of objective abandonment or coercive eviction automatically voids the beneficiary heir's control of all assets." She pauses, letting the words land. "Furthermore, it authorizes the designated trust protector to immediately redirect those assets." The insurer's counsel nods, picking up the thread. From the insurer's standpoint, the $12 million Keyman payout was contingent on all clauses of the corporate operating agreement, including the care covenant, being met in good faith. We have reviewed the evidence of premeditation, the misuse of restricted funds for demolition, and the moral hazard this presents. He looks directly at Colton for the first time. We are officially reviewing the entirety of the disbursed funds for a full clawback, pending final adjudication. All eyes in the room turn to me. I am no longer the grieving widow. I am not the confused mother. I am the trust protector. I feel the weight of their gaze, and I meet it. As the designated trust protector, I say, and my voice does not shake. And in light of this documented, premeditated breach, I am formally invoking a protective direction over the Langford Family LLC, effective immediately. The words feel solid, like iron. 1. An immediate and indefinite freeze on all member draws and financial distributions. 2. The appointment of an independent interim manager to be chosen by this board to oversee all corporate holdings. And 3. An immediate halt to the unauthorized demolition and avoiding of any pending sale of the Cherry Creek property. This is baseless, Colton shouts, his voice cracking. You have no proof. Dr. Pike, who has been silent until this moment, leans forward. He begins to place items on the gleaming black table, one by one. Exhibit A, he says, sliding the glossy Sunrise Meadows brochure into the center. Exhibit B, the printed, enlarged screenshot of the Not My Job text message. Exhibit C, a USB drive containing the time-stamped video, taken by a neighbor, of my being locked out of the house. Exhibit D, the time-stamped audio files we just heard. The pattern, Dr. Pike says, his voice flat, is not one of negligence. It is a textbook, documented, and premeditated pattern of coercive eviction. Colton shoves his chair back. The sound is a violent scrape that sets everyone's teeth on edge. He lunges to his feet. This is a setup. She's manipulating all of you. She's a bitter, confused old woman. This is my money. My father wanted me to have this. You can't. He is ranting, his face contorted. Marjorie, without looking up from her notepad, cuts him off. Thank you, Mr. Langford, she says calmly. Hostile utterance logged. Colton stops, choking on his own rage. The bank's compliance officer nods to her assistant, who begins distributing a single sheet of paper to everyone at the table. It is the formal notice. The breach is confirmed, the officer states. Mr. Langford's control is suspended, effective immediately. As per the operating agreement's springing authority, all voter rights attached to the controlling shares are hereby shifted to the trust protector pro tem. She looks at me. Beatrice Langford. Colton sputters, sinking back into his chair. Marjorie delivers the final, crushing blow. And gentlemen, she says, addressing the board, you will also note the rider's remedial pathway, now that the breach is established. Mr. Langford has one of two options. She lets the silence stretch. 1. He can petition the board to enter the remedial pathway. This would require 12 consecutive months of documented, hands-on, verifiable care for his mother, with his rights to be restored only after a unanimous review. 12 months, Colton whispers, his face ashen. Or, Marjorie continues, option 2, the permanent and irrevocable reallocation of all his distributions, assets, and future interests into the charitable subtrust designated in the rider. She glances at her notes. A subtrust, I should add, named by Graham Langford himself, for Beatrice. Colton makes a small, gasping sound. He looks around the table, but no one will meet his gaze. Dr. Pike quietly closes his leather binder. We also note, for the record, he adds, the absence of Mr. Langford's wife, Savannah Pierce Langford. She was also served notice of this meeting. We have her last known location. Should the board require her testimony? I picture her, waking up alone on a cot in my cold garage. Exhibit F. The afternoon storm gathers force, turning the sky over Denver a bruised, heavy purple. The consequences of the morning's meeting are immediate and absolute. At the gates of the Cherry Creek mansion, my son is standing in the driving rain. A sheriff's civil unit car is parked at the curb, its lights flashing silently, washing the wet pavement in red and blue. A deputy, his face impassive, hands Colton the temporary restraining order. He is officially, legally barred from the LLC premises. The contractors are there. They are not demolishing. They are reclaiming. The head contractor, the same man who tossed my wedding photograph, is supervising his crew as they load drywall, copper piping, and power tools back onto their flatbed trucks. A local news van has arrived, its camera protected by a plastic rain cover, aimed directly at the front door. Colton ignores the deputy. He lunges for the smart lock on the mansion's massive oak door. He punches in the code, the one he set after locking me out. The keypad beeps 3 times, a sharp, negative sound, and flashes red. Access denied. He tries again. Red. The interim manager appointed by the board has already changed the access codes. The news camera zooms in, capturing the moment he shouts, his voice lost in the wind, as he slams his fist against the solid wood door that will not open for him. Across town, in my quiet Aurora neighborhood, the distant wash of sirens filters through the thin walls of the garage. Savannah jerks awake. She is disoriented, still curled under the single wool quilt on the folding cot. The sound startles her. She flinches, pushing her matted hair out of her eyes, her breath fogging in the cold air. The side door of the garage scrapes open. I am standing there, framed in the doorway. Savannah recoils, pulling the quilt up to her chin. A cornered animal. I say nothing. I set 2 items on the concrete floor just inside the threshold. The first is a steaming mug of black coffee. The second is a single, printed sheet of paper. It is a list phone numbers for 3 women's shelters, the name of a family law attorney, and the direct number for a therapist specializing in coercive control. She stares at the list, then at the coffee, then at me, her eyes wide with a new, dawning horror. "You may stay one night," I say. My voice is perfectly level, cutting through the sound of the rain on the roof. "In the garage, tomorrow, you will go to Marjorie's office, and you will tell the truth. On the record. All of it. B, please," she whispers, her voice cracking. "It's cold. He took my wallet." I do not answer. I leave the side door open. Miles away, in the steel and glass tower, Marjorie Dale hits send on a final email to the LLC board. It is a notification of action. The assets are already moving. All distributions are officially redirected to the Covenant Subtrust, pending the 12-month remedial period or permanent reallocation. The $12 million is now formally under full review for clawback by the insurer, citing gross, premeditated breach of moral covenant. The sound of the sirens over Cherry Creek grows louder, resolving into the heavy, rhythmic thump, thump, thump of a news chopper. It hovers low in the grey sky, its spotlight cutting through the rain, fixed on the mansion. Down on the street, an HOA official, shielded by a large black umbrella, nails a large laminated notice to the newly locked gates, property under compliance hold, pending LLC investigation. In my small kitchen, my phone buzzes on the counter. Colton's name flashes on the screen. I look at it. I watch it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. I let it go to voicemail. I do not need to speak to him. I open my phone. I find the audio files Savannah gave me last night. I select the one labeled Deposition Coaching. The sound of my son's voice instructing her to film my humiliation. I attach it to a new email, addressed to the lead counsel at the insurance company, the one in charge of the clawback. I press send. I walk to the side door. I look across the small patch of wet grass into the garage. Savannah is sitting up on the cot. She has not touched the list. She is holding the mug of coffee in both shaking hands, staring into the darkness. She is shivering, illuminated by the single, humming garage light. I stand in the doorway, a shadow framed against the warmth of my own house, my posture steady as a metronome. My phone pings. A new email. A simple, automated response from the insurer's server. Received clause enforcement active. I reach up, my hand finding the switch on the wall just inside my kitchen door. I turn off the garage light. Thank you all so much for listening to my story. I would love to know where in the world you are tuning in from. So please drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Do not forget to subscribe to Grandma's Family Diary and like this video. And if this story moved you, please hit that hype button so we can get it heard by more people.